Hello Tech Pros, episode 118.
All we do in interacting with other people, if we're trying to provide a service, if we're trying to educate or anything like that, we're just solving problems.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Mike Morrison. Happy Saturday, Mike.
Hey, same to you, Chad. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Dude, I'm so stoked to meet you again. So I actually met you at the Podcast Movement Conference just a week or two ago. And you're like one of my idols. You're one of the podcasts that I listened to before I started my podcast. So this is like a really, really big deal to me.
Thanks, man. I can't get used to that being a thing, to the fact there are actually real people out there listening. And the way in which we met was a little crazy as well, with that whole forced audience interaction. And, 30 or 40 seconds into chatting, you realizing that, hang on, I know this guy. So that was pretty cool. That was a good moment for me. That was quite cool.
It was so funny. So for those of you who were not at the conference and have no idea what Mike and I are talking about, we were both at Podcast Movement, which is like one of the biggest podcasting conferences in the world. And it was my first year to be there. Mike, have you been there before?
That was my first time too.
So we were newbies. We're brand new to going to this conference. But Mike's got an established podcast that we'll talk about in a minute called The Membership Guys. And he was sitting just left of me, like across the aisle. And I was on the right side of the aisle, and one of the presenters gets up, and he's like, okay, I know everybody's been sitting in their chairs, listening to all these presentations for a long time, so I want everybody to stand up, look left and right, shake the hand of the person next to you. And I'm like, hi, I'm Chad. And he's like, hi, I'm Mike. I'm like, oh, what do you do? He's like, oh, I've got this podcast. It's about membership guys. And I'm like, wait, hang on. Let me close my eyes and pretend I'm driving and listen to your voice. Your voice sounds really familiar. It's what is it? And you said, and the name of your show?
Guys Podcast. Yeah,
exactly.
The Membership Guys Podcast.
Exactly. That's the voice that I was used to. So I was like, I listened to your show, man. And so I kind of had like a little geek out moment there. And Mike kind of had this strange look on his face, like, who is this guy? This is weird. So let me do proper introductions now that we've gotten through that awkward moment. With over 15 years in web development and online marketing, Mike Morrison now makes up one half of the Membership Guys, specializing in teaching business owners and hobbyists alike how to build, launch, and grow successful membership sites and communities. He now considers himself a reformed web developer. Amen, brother, me too. And enjoys nothing more than helping others escape the time for money trap and teaching them how to move from one-to-one services to a one-to-many model. And dude, I got to say, this is exactly why I started listening to your podcast back, I don't know, last year at some point. It was late last year, late 2015, when, I was really looking at making a change, a big career change. So I had left the Fortune 100 oil and gas market. I was in IT there for like 13 years. That was a big change. I moved across the country, moved across the U.S. from the Midwest to the East Coast. That was a huge change. But then once I started working in the local market here, I just felt, I don't know, it's the people are fun, the companies are awesome, but it's just kind of more of the same. And I really want to step out from this 9-to-5 job or 8-to-6 job or whatever it is, and I want to build something on my own. And so for a long time, I was looking for that opportunity and trying to figure out what it was. And I follow a lot of people like Pat Flynn and John Lee Dumas and some of these guys that have a big online presence, and they inspire people and coach people, and it's awesome. And I'm like, you know what? I think this model of having a membership site is exactly like fits into my life goals, right? I want to eventually build some sort of passive income stream where I'm helping people, I'm serving people, I'm providing them value But I kind of sell it once, or I don't know, start building that community once, and then it just kind of it maintains itself, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah,
And,
definitely. And the thing is there, what you described of getting out of that rat race of being an employee and finding yourself basically just doing exactly the same thing. So many people, particularly in this industry and web development and programming, that you rush when you go into self-employment. You kind of rush to rebuild that employed structure around yourself. So yeah, you are self-employed. That means you can stay up if you're here in the UK till 3 in the morning watching the latest episode of Game of Thrones in US time, and you can feel quite good about that because you don't have a job to go to the next day. But we end up doing the same thing. We're subject to clients, so we're just trading one boss for three or four bosses. And, we slip back into those habits. And as a result, we end up kind of unhappy in what we're doing because you get in that position where you've got this big plethora of skills. You can do all these sorts of things, but your clients, particularly in the local market, they just want you to build them a basic brochure website or something like that. So you're tapping into about 10-15% of your skill set at most. And you start to feel underappreciated the same way you do at that job that you hated and you left. You get clients who start to, scope creep. They'll ask for one thing and then they try and slip in more things, and you end up doing all this work for what works out very little pay, and then you start to feel underpaid and undervalued, just like in that job you hate. So it's crazy. And I did the same thing, so I can wax lyrical about it, but it's crazy how quickly we just put ourselves in the same traps that we did when we were in employment. And that's why something like the membership site and that way of getting more value out of your time, your knowledge, and expertise, using your time over and over again. So you create something and that's permanent. That then can go out to multiple people rather than creating something that just goes off to one client and then it's gone. You've made your money for the time you spend writing whatever widget or coding or designing up a fancy page or whatever, but that's gone, that's used. You can't really then take it and resell it or get any more value out of it. Membership model is awesome because your time just gets so much more leveraged. You're creating stuff that is helping several people, and not just several people for the next hour or so. If you're doing like training or if you create a course, it's not just like doing a local workshop where you're helping however many people are in the room. You create a course, you create a tutorial, that's going to just help every single new person who comes to your site for years and years and years. And it's such a departure from that time for money, wage slave kind of trap that we all get ourselves into within employment, and then we all rush towards when we go out on our own. That it's surprising more people don't look for those opportunities instead of just becoming freelancer or whatever.
Well, I think the you only know what you know, right? And you don't know what you don't know. And what I've struggled with is, growing up as a kid, I looked to my parents, I looked to my mentors, and it was, you got to go to college, you got to get a job, right? Yeah. And the more stable job that you can get, the better. So go for a big company, a large company, somebody who's been there for 30, 40, 50 years, 100 years, who has like stock plans and 401k and retirement, all this kind of stuff. And that's your goal. That's the goal in life, is to get one of those positions and then milk it for as many decades as you can before something happens. And I did that, but then it's like, you know what? Now that I'm ready to switch, it's really hard to switch my mindset to these other options.
Definitely. And, the education system, I'm sure it's the same in the US as it is in the UK, although I think in the US, entrepreneurship is maybe a little more encouraged. You guys have the American dream. The American dream is central to what you guys do. There's almost something instilled in most people from the US who I meet where they expect more for themselves. Whereas in the UK, it's almost impolite to want to be successful. We have this very odd browbeaten kind of society, but I'm sure in education, it's the same on both sides of the Atlantic. the route to go is you study through school, and if you're good at that, you stay on for a little bit more schooling. You do college, you do university, you do the career route.
Right.
And there's nothing really out there other than over the top reality shows that are giving anyone any glimpse at a different plan or a different option. But oh, get a job, a stable job. This past decade or so, anyone who still believes in that is insane.
Mm,
I went down that route because that's the route that's put ahead of you. And like you say, you don't know what you don't know. And I was in finance, I was in banking. I was going to be a financial advisor, and I actually worked in middle management. I think before I kind of figured, you know what, this is complete pants. I'm actually going to pursue this hobby I'd been getting really passionate about, which was web development. I just didn't realize
nice.
people did it as a career. So I was in finance, and I got out maybe about 2 to 3 years before the global economic crash. And the place that I worked for is a bank called Northern Rock, which was essentially like the first big casualty of the economic crash. It was
Oh
actually
man.
played a part in the UK in the economic crash being such a big thing over here because they were taking the sort of risks in the markets that weren't typical for the UK. They were more like the US and all
Hmm.
that sort of stuff. So a lot of my friends were their stable jobs, people I worked with who had been in that job for 40 years, and you say stock options, Northern Rock had very generous stock options, and they used to ask us if we wanted stock or if we wanted cash. Always took cash because I was young and I enjoyed spending it.
Right.
And my older colleagues would always warn against that. You should take stock, you should take stock. And I know someone who was about a year from retirement who had close to 100,000. So it's not huge, insane amounts, but for her, it was.
Right.
Close to 100,000, that was going to buy this, that, and the other. And then within a week, it was worth zero,
Oh
when
man.
this crashed.
Just
So
evaporated.
yeah, we're kind of venturing down a different road here, but essentially, all to come back and say stability is crazy. The only stability you have is where you have complete control over yourself, your direction, your business. And again, bringing it back to memberships, bringing it back to the sort of business models that get you out of that time for money trap and get you out of that place where you're reliant on one boss, a board of directors, 3 or 4 clients. The quicker you can get away from that, the further you can get away from that and get into a business that is more leveraged, that doesn't have just 2 or 3 points of weakness, the better.
Man, I love that. I love that, and I'm sold on that, and I am sold on the membership idea, the membership model. So the reasons why I'm sold on that, and why I want to eventually build my own membership thing, my membership site or membership subscription service thing, or for two reasons. One, like you said, the scalability, right?
Yeah.
Your time gets more leverage because you're helping more people. You build a course, or you build a tool, or you build whatever it is that one time, and then it can support one person, and then 10 people, and then 100, and then 10,000, and then it scales up.
Exactly.
The other reason I like specifically around membership sites is because once you have members, I love helping people. I love helping people accomplish their goals. I love helping people do whatever it is they want to do, whether it's have more fun or make more money or learn how to be more outgoing person or whatever that is. If I can help someone, then that's great. And so once I build that membership, then I'm going to feel obligated that, man, I've got 20 people every month or 2,000 people every month that I need to serve. I'm not just going to sit on my laurels and say, okay, I've built an e-course now. The people come in, they take the course, they're doing good, and then eventually the churn rate, they'll fall off. No, I want to continue to help them. And so it kind of gives me incentive to continually push the boundaries and look for new ways to serve that audience and new ways to help them.
Definitely, and that's one of the biggest motivators for me. If you're from a web development background, if you're from software development, you develop an absolutely awesome app or widget or piece of software, then yes, you get the fulfillment and the accomplishment and the achievement of that, but you're not part of what happens when someone takes that away, installs it, and then does whatever it's supposed to do. If you build a website for somebody, typically you're not going to be heavily involved in how that website then plays into other elements of someone's business or someone's lives. So with something like a membership where you can't genuinely, and this sounds really kind of cheesy, but you get to be part of people's journey. You get to affect that in a big way, and you get to make a difference. And that really does sound a little Tony Robbins and a bit, let's all hold hands and skip around in a circle kind of stuff. But making a difference, man, and knowing that you are, and knowing that you're not just, adding a few dollars onto your employer's bankroll, or you're not just satisfying a kind of, if you're building a website for a startup business, you're not just doing it because it's one of 10 things that's on their checklist to get in place and they don't really care. They just need a website because every business has a website. That's not really making a difference. You can't feel as good about that stuff as you can, when someone in your community comes and says, this thing you did maybe 6 months ago, 12 months ago, I've now had this change. I've now had this result. And for us, we help other people, build membership sites. So for us, we're seeing people's businesses being transformed or affected by the advice we give by people who are moving at the membership model. Now, I'm not talking the whole overly aspirational, life's transformed, they're now sitting by a beach sipping cocktails, working 40 minutes a week, because that's nonsense. Anyone who tries to sell you that idea, you need to run as fast as you can, as far as you can in the other direction. A transformation can't just be, I used to have to work 10, 12 hours a day working with clients one-on-one. Now I get to work 4 or 5 hours a day if I want. That can majorly change someone's life. Or I can now just take every Friday off work. Or one of our members, who's actually had a membership site for 10 years, so he had a site, came to our site to learn, how to get it out of a rut. And he a couple of weeks ago said that stuff that he'd been implementing meant that he was able to take his grandkids away to Disneyland, and the extra money that was made through his membership, through stuff he'd put into place after watching one of our courses, paid for the trip itself and paid for the next one when he came back. Just like little things.
Right.
Not when you say transformation, not completely overhauling someone's life, but still making a difference. That feels good. It feels good to be a part of that. And it's one of our favorite things about memberships, the fact that you have to stick around. You have to show up. You have to serve. You have to deliver something. It's not just creating a product, you sell it, and then it's done. When someone joins a membership site, for you, that's the start of the journey. That's the start of the transaction. Whereas if you're selling courses or downloads or ebooks, when someone buys, that's the end of it. And it's it does open up opportunities to actually really feel good about what you're doing and the work you're doing and the change you're helping other people achieve.
Man, Mike, I love that. I love the fact, or I love what you just said there about when you're buying a product or a service, right? I'm getting my hair cut or I'm buying a new pair of shoes. Like once I complete that transaction, then it's completed. The transaction is completed. Yeah. I've moved on. Like I may come back next month to get another haircut, or 6 months from now, or whatever, right? Or when my shoes fall apart, I will need to buy another pair of shoes, but those are one-off individual transactions, as opposed to things where, like, I've invested in a course that's going to help me with my business, or I've invested in a membership to like a Netflix or something like that, which is going to provide entertainment for me and my family forever, right?
Yeah.
That's I love those, because what you said is once you initiate that membership, you become a member, then it just starts that conversation. It starts that relationship, and then that relationship can evolve and change and grow over time.
Exactly. And the good thing about that is, when it comes to online marketing, there are so many snake oil merchants out there who will overpromise, underdeliver, and they'll sell you on this idea of, here's the secret sauce to making untold riches without ever having to lift a finger. And you have people who are suckered in and seduced by that. And in some ways, it's easy to understand why they are. People are forever chasing the golden goose. And the reason they're chasing the golden goose is because it doesn't bloody exist. But the thing about memberships is it forces you to be clean as a business owner. It forces you to be transparent. I can't sit here on interviews like this and say, if you come along to membersiteacademy.com and join up, I guarantee you that within 2 weeks you will be earning X, Y, and Z. I can't say that because there's no way I can guarantee it. And also because if you do join, I can't get away with BSing because you're coming around my house. I'm inviting you into my house. You're going to be staying a while. So if I've lied to get you in there, if I've misled you or missold you, you're going to be hanging around and you're going to figure it out. And you're going to have a very awkward conversation with me and I've got nowhere to go because you're here. Right. You're there for the long run. So that forces a transparency. And I do find it funny because there are some elements out there who, they talk about membership sites and they promise the secret formula to a membership that anyone with no skills or no passion or no interest can create this multi-6, multi-7-figure membership. But they don't sell you those secrets via a membership site. They sell it via a one-off course where you have no interaction with them. And that's, again, because when, as a business owner, you need to show up every day and actually be in the same space as your members and your customers, you damn sure better make sure that you haven't lied to them, you haven't misled them, that, you're not fearful of the day they figure out that they've been conned. And I love that transparency because it means that people with actual quality, people with actual skills who genuinely want to make a difference, and you talked about there with your own, with your own membership plan, you genuinely want to make a difference. That is where you get to stand out against and succeed and win against the people who are there to make a quick buck and then move on, because they cannot last in a membership business because it's the whole all style, no substance just doesn't work with a membership model.
Mike, I was kind of borderline on the fence of whether or not I bought into the membership model, late last year when I started listening to the Membership Guys podcast, and I quickly bought into exactly what you're talking about here. And, I listened to, 15, 16 episodes before I stopped listening because I needed to start working on stuff instead of just thinking about it, right? But on like episode 1 or 2, I was like, okay, I'm sold. I'm sold on this idea. I just need to figure out like what it is. Like, what is the membership that I want to build? And so that's been the journey really for me for the last several months, for the last half a year, is Chad thinking about himself, thinking about the solutions that I've provided to other customers, meaning, corporations that I work for or friends that I've helped, and what my thing is, like what do I do to help people, and how can I turn that into a membership? And I thought, okay, I really need to start with something else. I don't have anything to sell yet. I don't have a course. I don't have a book. I don't have a training program. I don't have an entertainment thing. So I need to start with an audience. And so that's why I picked to just shift and kind of put the membership stuff on hold, just pause that button for just a moment, and then go build a podcast so that I can start talking to people and figuring out what they want and what they resonate with my messages. And, are there any people out there that are kind of picking up what I'm putting down, And so now I'm at the part, and now I am ready to like unpause that button on the Membership Guys podcast, start re-engaging, and it's perfect because now I have you live, and I can skip ahead several episodes by getting direct and tactical. So, Mike, in just a moment when we come back from break, I want to get very specific on what I can do, what Hello Tech Pros brand can do to turn itself into a membership model? And how can I discover like what types of products or services that I can offer to my listeners? Like, how can I position myself as a membership and a podcast, like at the same time? What does that look like? And, a lot of these Entrepreneurship Saturdays are more episodes about like the founder story and how you got started. But I want this to be like extremely tactical. First, because, hey, I got you on the phone and you can coach me and help me, right? But second, because I think there's a lot of people out there who are listening in that are like, yeah, I want to know like specifically how, like, okay, I want to do this, but what are the steps? Like, what are the first, second, third, fourth steps that I need to take before I get my membership started? When we come back in just a moment, but first we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Okay, we're back with Mike Morrison, one half of the Membership Guys podcast and Membership Guys community. Mike, I've never asked, who is the other half of the Membership Guys?
The other half, and she would say the better half, is my partner in crime, Callie Willows. She is my partner and proper partner as well. We actually met through a membership.
Really?
Which is crazy. Usually when I tell people that, they think I mean like a dating website or Tinder, but it was when I was still kind of running my service business and she was running a service business too. We were both part of a UK based business networking community that had real world events, online networking, and so on. And she lived at the other end of the country, but through this membership, we worked together, we got to know each other, and then that led on to other things. So almost as though it was fated that we'd end up talking about memberships, that is indeed how we met. And then, it was just a case of over a period of years refining our focus, niching down on what we enjoyed, in terms of web projects, which was working on membership sites for private clients, and then spinning that off into blogging about it, podcasting about it, teaching it, and so on.
Oh man, congratulations! That's a lovely story, man.
It's very almost serendipitous, I think.
Well, I actually, to be completely transparent and share personal stuff with you, I actually met my wife through a membership site as well.
Awesome.
It was match.com, so it was a dating site.
Awesome.
13, 14 years ago, something like that now.
Wow.
And, we each went on a lot of horrible dates from the online dating space, and I won't go into the details there, but I'll leave it up to your imagination. A lot of horrible dates, and then when we met each other, we started comparing all the horrible dates that we've had from online dating, and then one thing led to another, and then now we've been married for 11 years and together for 13, so membership models can work.
Exactly. It's not just about, teaching someone how to do Facebook ads and so on. You actually tap into real life stuff and, not just this online, make money online kind of stuff. Right. That's where the real opportunities lie for memberships, without doubt.
So let's get real right now. So I don't know how much of my background that you know, but I'll give you the bullet points real quick. So software developer growing up, I moved into like app dev leadership, like team lead and stuff like that. And then I moved into IT management. So I was managing, of course, the app dev teams as well as the mobile development teams, big data and analytics, GIS. So I was doing a lot of like IT leadership in big corporation stuff. And as an individual, I've always been extremely introverted, extremely shy, and not volunteering for stuff, not speaking up. And that's been something that I've been slowly like coming out of my shell and slowly like engaging with the world and start acting like a human being instead of a robot in many ways. And so that's really, if you kind of look at the scope of the Hello Tech Pros podcast that I put together, it starts with Monday motivation, Tuesday productivity, Wednesday leadership, and you start seeing a theme, right? It's not really about the technology, it's about the people behind the technology and the mindset and this, the soft skills that you have to implement and you have to work on and you have to continually to get better at in order to improve in business or in your career or whatever that you want to do. And we do touch on technology. But for me, it's really about those things. It's about, hey, you don't have to be this shy, introverted person that just stares at a screen and tries to get stuff to compile. And once your compiled works, then everything's good. Life is great. No, you have to like pitch your ideas. You have to sell your ideas. You have to, work in a team and all that kind of stuff. So before I launched this podcast, even while, just a couple months ago when I launched this podcast, I really didn't know a direction on where I wanted to head for my membership sites. So if you could start with a newbie, a brand new person who doesn't have that clear direction on exactly what kind of membership site they want to build, what advice would you give them?
Wow. First of all, I think the thing that most people don't think about is what they actually exist for, what they are doing as a designer, as a podcaster, a blogger, as a coach. We get wrapped up in these labels and wrapped up in the mechanism of what we do. So I'm a coach who has a Skype-based group coaching program and this, that, and the other. And that's what you think you do. You don't. Mm-hmm. You're not a podcaster. I'm not a blogger or a podcaster or an educator. I'm a problem solver.
Okay.
You're a problem solver. That's all we do. All we do in interacting with other people, if we're trying to provide a service, if we're trying to educate or anything like that, we're just solving problems. That's all it boils down to. And that needs to be the starting point for any kind of thought process behind what solution can I create? What will this solution look like? Focus on what problem are you actually solving? What pain are you dealing with? What frustrations are you helping people overcome? What results are you helping people get? It doesn't matter what that looks like right now. It doesn't matter whether that's a course or a membership site. It doesn't matter if it's a podcast, if it's a service package or anything. Problems and solutions, that's your starting point. And then from there, then you start to look at which mechanisms are the most efficient or the most effective for actually solving these things. Now, somebody wanting to lose weight because they are having extreme health problems and they're depressed and have anxiety and all that sort of stuff is obviously a way bigger problem than I need to make my cost per click more efficient on Google adverts. Mm-hmm. But it's still a problem that requires a solution. So you need to think about what you're doing, who your audience are, what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, what opportunities exist out there. So are there any really strong, pertinent, persistent problems amongst your community that nobody else is solving? Or maybe solutions exist, but they're not very good or they're inefficient. Can you provide a better solution, a quicker solution, a cheaper solution, a more fun, more engaging solution, a solution more tailored towards particular personality types? This is the kind of mindset you need to have before you start thinking about, okay, well, how many modules should my course have? Yeah. Or, should I do live training or static training? Should it be a course or a membership site? So really kind of thinking about that, and this is why having an audience is important, because they'll tell you what their problems are, they'll tell you what solutions they need, and when you're doing your research both within your existing audience, so a listener base, blog readers, Facebook groups, for example, are great places for this, because people will complain, they will moan, and they will tell you their problems.
Mm-hmm.
You start to you start to build a good picture of what your audience need and what problems aren't being serviced, but you do need to marry that with what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, and what skills you have too. So the starting point when you're actually starting to brainstorm ideas, I like to have a little 2x2 grid. One box for stuff I care about, stuff I'm interested in, passionate about, stuff that lights me up, that actually gets me excited about the prospect of doing. And then stuff that I'm good at. What have I trained at? What qualifications do I have? What expertise do I have? What particular set of skills do I possess that have value or worth to people? And what sort of ideas exist around then? So, if if I've got, you've got background history in IT management, that's skills, knowledge, and experience.
Mm-hmm.
That might not be something that lights you up and makes you passionate, and that's why you don't put it in the passion box and the interest box. But it's skills. It's something that you have that someone else wouldn't have,
Right.
and that you can offer something of value to people. Your next book has to be, what does your market want? What does your audience want? You can't lead completely with that. If you are only focusing on what your audience are asking for, it won't last, because if it's something that you're just not interested in, then that's a quick route to things going downhill. And this is why providing client services can lead people into that trap where they're not happy with what they're doing, because you actually compromise the stuff you're interested and you're passionate about in order to just facilitate what people need and deliver what people want and what they're telling you that they want. So you have to get this balance right, and then obviously market opportunities. What gaps are there? What isn't being done? And that's your starting point. Figure out all these ideas and then see where the overlaps are. What stuff is there? What ideas exist in terms of ways you can provide solutions to problems that tap into stuff you're passionate about, that use the unique skills, knowledge, experience, expertise that you have to good effect and give you that competitive edge, that also address the stuff that your market and your audience are crying out for in a way that takes advantage of an opportunity that exists, a gap in the market, and therefore it's commercially viable too. You get something you're interested in, you're good at, that people want, that no one else is doing. That's your starting point. That's your idea. Then everything else comes out of that.
Oh man, that's such a great process. I love how you broke it down into, hey, you're a newbie. Forget about whether it's a membership or whether it's a podcast or whether it's something else. Hang on, stop that train, back it up a little bit, and just focus on these four things, these four steps. So what you're passionate about, what you're good at, that you have skills in, what does the market or your audience want, and what gaps are there out there in the marketplace that you can fill.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. That's awesome stuff, man. So Mike, I've got so many more questions for you about, okay, now I'm diving into these, and in my head, I'm answering them on my piece of paper here. I'm scribbling out some notes, but I'd like to take a breath, take a moment, and think about these. But I would love to talk to you more about this information, specifically, okay, once we have our grid filled out, then what? What are the next steps? Would you mind coming back for another episode next week?
I'd love to. I would.
Awesome. Great. Well, then, tell you what, Tech Pros, we're going to do a back-to-back interview. So this is episode 118 with Mike Morrison. If you hang around till next week will be, let me look at my production calendar, episode 125. So wait till next Saturday, episode 125, or if you're listening to this sometime in the future, you can listen to these back-to-back, 118, 125, and we will dive into more details that Mike's going to share with me on how I can take my passions, my skills, the feedback from my audience, and what gaps in the marketplace that I've identified, and come up with like tactical plan for how to implement, or should we implement a membership here on Hello Tech Pros. And you know what? You can be part of the conversation as well. I would love to get your feedback on what you want. You've heard my history. You know what I'm like, and you've listened to other episodes of this podcast, hopefully. And you know, like what kind of information I like sharing, and that is motivational, it's inspiring, it's helpful tips on how to improve your career, improve your business, and build your products. So if you want to join the conversation, go to hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you use Slack communication, I have a Slack channel that's open. You can join in there, and we talk all day, every day about whatever, about Game of Thrones, about Dungeons and Dragons, and about like building businesses and building careers. So please join that conversation at hellotechpros.com/Slack. And we're going to talk to Mike again next week. So tune in next week for more information on how to break this down and how to actually create a membership site that can serve your audience. Mike, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value all the information that you're sharing with me, and I really appreciate the fact that you're going to come back next week.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. I shall see you again next Saturday.
Awesome. Tech Pros, think about your passion, your skills, what the market or the audience wants, and what gaps are out there. And tune in next week on episode 125, and we'll talk to Mike again. You've been listening to Mike Morrison, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/118. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Entrepreneurship Saturday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I will not be talking about work because it's Sunday being unplugged. On Monday, we'll get motivated once again to face the week with Motivation Monday, followed by Tuesday, productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people communication, and Saturday, back to our entrepreneurship. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.